Hi, everyone, and welcome. My name is Kaylee Gold, and I'm the Digital Marketing Manager here at Convey, and your host for today's webinar. From Delinquent to Recovered, Smarter Utility Collections with ConveyIQ. We know collections is one of the most challenging areas for utilities right now. Traditional approaches often create friction for customers who may already be in a difficult situation, and for internal managing high call volumes, compliance requirements, and limited visibility into engagement. Today, we're going to explore how utilities can take a smarter, more proactive approach. We'll look at how leveraging customer data, behavioral signals, and omnichannel delivery can drive better payment outcomes while improving the overall customer experience. We'll also touch on compliance and how built-in consent controls and automated consent management help utilities confidently manage communications at scale. For those of you who have known us as Message Broadcast, we want to address that up front. Convey is the evolution of that brand. This wasn't just a name change. It reflects a deliberate shift from being a messaging company to becoming an engagement operating system. And that distinction is really what today's session is about. Our goal is simple. By the end of this conversation, you'll have a clearer understanding of how intelligent, personalized communications can reduce delinquencies, increase self-service, and ease the burden on contact centers. We'll spend about 45 minutes together. We'll start by looking at today's arrears environment and where traditional collection strategies tend to break down. Then we'll walk through how ConveyIQ orchestrates the full collections lifecycle, including a real customer journey from end to end. And then we'll close with outcomes and leave time for Q&A. Now I'm excited to introduce our speakers. We're joined by Susan DeClercq, Senior Product Manager at Convey, who brings more than 28 years of utility industry experience and leads the development of solutions that help utilities deliver timely, effective communications. And we'll also have Riyad Adhami, Chief Innovation Officer at Convey, whose background in enterprise software innovation and essential services infrastructure helps drive the forward-thinking solutions behind ConveyIQ. Thank you both for being here, and with that, I'll hand it over to get us started.
All right. Thank you very much, Kaylee. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Hello, Susan. Happy to be doing this with you.
Hi, Ryan, and hello, everyone. It's great to be here with all of you.
All right. I was hoping to start with the macro picture because context here is key. What you're looking at is a U.S. utility arrears chart over the last 6 years, national aggregate debt from 2019 through our current projections for 2025. 2025 has not been fully measured yet. Those things take a minute, but this is the latest data available as of February 2026.
And the shape of this chart tells three distinct stories. The first is the pandemic shock. COVID-19 pushed roughly 25 million households into arrears almost overnight. Moratoria masked the damage while it was happening, but total debt surged from 8 billion to a peak of 38 billion as unpaid balances accumulated behind temporary legal protections.
Right. And then we had what looked like a recovery. So federal relief programs, LIHEAP, ERAP, et cetera, brought that number down to about 15.7 by mid-2022. Felt like progress, but then energy inflation hit and erased those gains. Bills rose by 35% by 2023, and debt climbed right back up to 19.5 billion.
And now we're in what the data is telling us is a structural crisis. No federal backstop, electricity prices up over 10%, the fastest increase in a decade. AI-driven grid demand is adding load. Debt is projected to have hit 25 billion by the end of 2025 for million disconnections projected. It isn't a spike, it's a new baseline.
That's right. And there's regional contrast here. It's just important to note. The Northeast, for example, seeing average overdue balances above $1,500. The Midwest is rising fastest due to capacity auction shocks in Illinois, Ohio, and Michigan. Every region has a version of this problem, but the shape and drivers are different. So this, I think, this underlines why a one-size-fits-all collections approach just doesn't work anymore.
Next slide. The Con Edison data point is one we come back to consistently because it's specific and it's documented. Residential arrears at Con Edison grew from 4 million in 2020 to 1.4 billion by mid 2024. At one point, 410,000 residential customers owed a combined $1.4 billion. That is one utility in one state.
Yeah, and the reason it matters beyond New York is that Con Edison is not an outlier. It's a data point um, that reflects what's happening structurally across the industry. I was just talking to PG&E yesterday, and we talk to utilities about this all the time, and we're getting the same message. According to our internal researchers, over 4 million households at risk for disconnection this year. There are three forces that are driving this, and I don't think they're going away.
First is the energy affordability pressure. Post-pandemic price increases layered onto household budgets that did not recover uniformly. Customers who were marginal before are now chronically behind. Second, assistance program cliffs. Federal and state funding cycled through. Customers who were stabilized are re-entering arrears, and the pipeline is refilling faster than programs can absorb them.
And the third force is the one that changes what the technology needs to do, which is regulatory engagement. We'll talk about this a little bit later, but in a nutshell, state commissions are more active than they have been in a generation. Shut-off restrictions, notice requirements, contact cadence rules, affordability mandates, they're all expanding. So collections, we no longer view it as a back office workflow. It's a regulated, auditable, high visibility process, and we don't see that reversing.
And it's industry-wide. So many of our utilities now identify arrears management as their single largest operational challenge. The old model, letter, reminder, final notice, and shut off, that was designed for a different environment. None of its underlying assumptions hold true today.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about that old model, the linear collections model. We'll see that on the next slide. So we had this process. There we go. Yes, thank you. Letter, reminder, final notice, shut off. It was actually well designed for the environment that it was built for. It did the job, stable balances, predictable customer behavior, limited regulatory scrutiny, manageable assistance pipelines. The problem we have today is that every single one of those assumptions has been invalidated.
And the model didn't evolve with the environment changes. The same four-step sequence is still running in most utilities today, with some digital channels bolted on, but the underlying logic hasn't changed. It still treats collections as a linear, time-based process with a fixed endpoint.
Yeah, I mean, when I was building systems at Agent 511, one of the things we learned early is that systems designed for stable conditions fail in non-linear ways when conditions change. This is like if you've got two lanes on the road and you close one, it doesn't take you twice as long to get to work. It takes you quite a bit longer. And so the linear collections model is experiencing exactly that failure right now, not because the people that running it aren't capable, but because the model itself is just mismatched to the environment.
All four of the original assumptions are gone. That's the starting point for everything we're going to show you today.
So let's jump into it on the next slide.
Let's talk about the regulatory layer specifically, because this is the piece that has changed most dramatically and is often underestimated in terms of operational impact.
So we're showing this in four categories. Shut-off restrictions that must be enforced automatically. The word automatically is important here. Manual processes just don't scale and create audit risk. So any notice that goes out during a weather hold can be a trigger for a complaint. One example, New York's proposed Utility Shutoff Protection Act would create blackout windows covering roughly half the calendar year. No manual process can reliably track that across hundreds of thousands of accounts.
There's also notice requirements, regulated timing, content, and delivery of collection notices. Not just what you say, but when you say it, how, and through which channel. Each misstep is a potential commission finding. Pennsylvania's PUC voted 5-0 to codify notice and payment arrangement requirements into binding regulation, meaning what was once just guidance is now an auditable standard.
All right. Contact rules, we're familiar with TCPA consent requirements, channel eligibility, state level contact frequency limits. These apply to every digital outreach. So as utilities expand into SMS, push notifications, and digital channels, the compliance surface area expands with it. You can now manage that surface area manually. We're familiar with the 2024 TCPA order, maybe that by April 2026, the customer who revokes consent mid-collections journey has closed every automated channel. The system has to know that instantly at the account level. You have to predict that the customer wanted that the ability to remove consent. That's a tough thing to do manually as well.
And there's affordability mandates. Commission required program referrals, income qualified holds, even medical baseline protections. These must be enforced at the account level, not at the program level. The system needs to know for each individual account what protections apply right now.
So as you can see, collections is no longer a back office workflow. It is and has to become a regulated, auditable, high visibility process. I think the utilities that have not internalized that shift yet are accumulating exposure every day.
Next slide. So let's talk about what's actually happening inside utility operations today. Because the problem isn't that utilities aren't communicating with customers. The problem is what they're doing is uncoordinated, unsegmented, and increasingly compliance risky. There are 4 patterns we see consistently.
And when we say they, we mean we. We're part of this market and we're trying to work together to make it better. But we do see these patterns. Pattern one, uncoordinated communications. So you have billing sends a past due notice, collection sends a reminder, the outage team sends a shutoff warning, program enrollment letter goes out the same week. Every one of these might be technically correct, but from the customer's perspective, it's confusing and noisy. From an operational perspective, it's expensive. We've identified six-figure annual savings for large utilities just with early contextual digital engagement.
Another one we see is the manual compliance execution. Weather moratoriums, medical baseline protections, income qualified holds. Every state has these rules. Enforcing them relies on static rule tables, manual overrides, and in many cases, spreadsheets. The risk isn't just inefficiency, it's regulatory exposure. A shutoff notice during a weather hold, a contact that violates a consent record. These are audit findings and complaint triggers, not hypothetical ones.
Right. We also have no journey awareness. Legacy systems just don't share state. Collection system doesn't know the customer called the contact center yesterday and was referred to an assistance program. The billing system may not know the customer set up a payment arrangement just this morning. The next automated notice might go out anyway. So from a systems architecture perspective, I think this is a solvable coordination problem, but it requires a layer that sits above those systems and holds the state.
Also, undifferentiated segmentation. The same letter to a first-time delinquent with 18 months of on-time payment history versus a chronic non-payer. The same shutoff warning to a customer in active hardship and one who simply hasn't updated their payment method. Utilities that implemented predictive modeling and tailored messaging, they saw a 30% increase in debt recovery and a 79% reduction in accounts sent to external agencies. Segmentation produces outcomes. Undifferentiated messaging produces volume.
So before we get into the solution, just to reiterate the stakes, because the cost of inaction in this, I don't think is theoretical anymore.
There's 3 categories that we see. Operational risk, which is duplicate notices, manual compliance overrides, consuming staff time, disconnected systems generating contradictory messages, contact center volume driven entirely by customer confusion. These are direct measurable costs that are happening today.
There's regulatory risk, shut-off notices sent during active moratoriums, contact cadence violations, TCPA exposure, collection actions on medically protected accounts, and then perhaps most critically, no audit trail to defend decisions to commissions when they come asking. And they are coming asking more frequently than they were 3 years ago.
And lastly, reputational risk. Customers in hardship receiving escalating threats, press and advocacy attention on collections practices, commission inquiries driven by complaint volume, community trust erosion in essential service providers. For a utility, trust is an infrastructure. Once it's gone, it is very hard to rebuild.
Utilities that cannot demonstrate coordinated, auditable collections journeys, we think, are exposed on all three fronts simultaneously. That's just the environment we're operating in. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what we're doing about it. Over the past year, we've been busy creating the building blocks of our next generation platform, which is ConveyIQ. We're very excited to discuss that with you today, particularly how we use it to help with these affordability problems.
ConveyIQ is an engagement operating system. It's a layer that sits above your existing billing, outage, and CIS systems and turns raw data signals into intelligent, compliant customer conversations.
First, it listens. ConveyIQ continuously ingests signals from your environment, whether it's outage events, payment activity, AMI data, weather overlays, which can be third-party data. It listens to customer signals. It connects to hundreds of data sources so that by the time a customer interaction begins, the system already knows what's happening in that customer's world and in your grid. Second thing it does is it remembers. And this is a key differentiation between this and systems of the past. It's different from just a campaign tool. It maintains what we call journey state. It knows that this customer enrolled in a payment arrangement 11 days ago. It knows that they've had 2 outages in this billing cycle. That context travels with every interaction across days, across channels, across events, across a certain period of time that can be specified. The third thing it does is it makes decisions. It uses next best action logic. ConveyIQ evaluates what should happen next for each individual customer at each moment. Should we send a text right now or wait until tomorrow? Is this customer eligible for outreach given their consent status? Is there a regulatory quiet period in effect? The system resolves all of that before a single message goes out. The fourth thing it does is it acts. Once a decision is made, ConveyIQ can orchestrate execution across whatever channel is appropriate, SMS, email, voice, push, RCS, etc., with all the compliance guardrails built right in.
So ConveyIQ allows you to design and deploy compliant customer interactions faster and more effectively than ever before.
So we talk about orchestration. Maybe you've heard this term
Next slide.
being thrown out before. So let's talk about what does that actually mean? What does a different approach that uses orchestration look like? What we mean by it is something very specific.
So a messaging platform asks, what do we want to send? ConveyIQ asks something fundamentally different. Given everything we know about this customer right now, their account state, their compliance flags, their journey history, their engagement behavior, what is the right next action? And are we even permitted to take it? The second question is the one that changes everything.
And to answer it, ConveyIQ will work through a layered decision model in a specific sequence. Layer 1, customer context, account status, arrears balance, payment history, program enrollment, vulnerability indicators, language, and accessibility needs. This is the foundation. We can't take any action without looking at that first.
And layer 2 is the compliance context. What rules apply to this account right now? Weather moratorium active, medical protection flag, consent record across each channel, contact cadence rules for this state and account type. Compliance is evaluated before any journey logic runs. It is not a filter applied afterwards. That distinction is architecturally critical.
And then Layer three journey state. We talked about this a little bit. What has this customer already received? How have they responded? What journey phase are they in? What holds or escalation thresholds may apply? And then layer four, given all of that, what is the next best action? What channel is eligible? What message is appropriate? Does this need human intervention?
This sequence is non-negotiable. Context first, compliance second, journey third, and action last. And channel selection is always the final decision, never the first. It's the inversion from how most utilities are currently operating.
So we just walked through the four layers conceptually. Let's make it a little bit more visual. I hope this diagram will help illustrate how those layers work together for a single account in a real scenario.
So what you're seeing here is a visualization of ConveyIQ's decision logic applied to a specific customer situation. Let's walk left to right because that sequence is the point. On the left, customer context. We have an account, 48291, a balance, $124.50. The risk level is low. There's no outage impact. Communication preference is SMS. And for payment history, they usually pay on time. That last signal matters. This is not a chronic non-payer. The system establishes that before it does anything else.
In the center panel, you can see the compliance status. So consent is valid, contact limits are within threshold, quiet hours are not active at the moment that this is running. Regulatory holds, we don't see any. Disclosures are flagged as required, and that flag is already resolved. Channel eligibility confirms SMS, email, and voice are all available for this account. So what this panel illustrates is that four distinct compliance gates cleared before the journey logic ran, not a manual checklist and not a spreadsheet, actual structural evaluation that happens before any action is permitted.
And the right panel, that represents the journey state. Billing was due. Reminder was sent 3 days ago. The account is sitting at payment due with a forward arrow. Grace period, disruption warning, and escalation are all visible as future states, but none have triggered. The system knows exactly where this customer sits in the journey at this moment.
And then the output, the next best action we were talking about, in this case, send payment reminder via SMS, which matches the customer's stated preference. The available actions panel shows the system also has send message, offer assistance, disruption notices options. These are all templates that you can have or may already have in our systems, which we can read into. But the orchestration logic surfaces the one most appropriate action for this account specific state.
And the action log, which is shown in the bottom right, shows how this sequence would flow. Evaluated, approved, executing. The visualization is shown you that from billing event to compliant, personal outreach. Each layer was checked. Every gate was cleared, and the action that went out was the right one for the customer at this moment.
That's right. I hope that helps show the difference between a system that sends messages and a system that helps you make decisions. Every data point on the screen was evaluated before that payment reminder was permitted to send. And this is what compliance by design looks like when you put it in practice.
So on this side, what you're seeing play is you're looking that there are two different customer journeys we're showing. The first is an actual message sequences as the customer would experience them on their phone. The flow on the left is a payment journey. A bill comes due, the customer engages, makes a promise to pay. The customer can actually confirm that a payment is on its way before it is fully processed on the utility side. So the journey responds to what the customer knows to be true, not just what the billing system has caught up to yet. When the payment is confirmed, the journey closes cleanly. No follow-up notices, no redundant reminders. Should the payment not clear, the flow would reset per the rules. In contrary, the flow on the right is a pending balance reminder sequence. First touch, second touch, final reminder, but it only escalates if the prior step didn't produce a response. When the customer acts, the flow adapts, or when the customer doesn't act, The flow continues all the way to the full final notice.
Yeah, that's right. And what I'd add is that in addition to what we described, the sequencing, the escalation logic, the moment the journey closes, all of that is fully in the utility's hands. ConveyIQ, the groundbreaking thing about it is it gives your team the ability to modify that logic whenever you need to. You can modify it seasonally as regulatory calendars shift, short term in response to something happening in your service territory, like right now, or perhaps as part of a longer term evolution of how you want to show up for your customers. The platform grows with your CX vision. It doesn't lock you into ours or whatever our collective idea was of the perfect CX vision for that moment. It grows with you and adapts with you, and these flows can evolve without a procurement process, without buying more software. It's just how it's built. So one of the first questions we get is, does this require replacing, some major system we have? Like, or do you need a certain billing system or CS? No, the answer is no. Full stop. ConveyIQ is designed to sit above all your existing systems. Integration happens at the data and the event layer. We read what your systems produce and make decisions on top of it. And then, of course, ConveyIQ is already connected to Eon's Reach, Conversations, and all other Convey platforms that you may have and love.
The diagram you see is showing exactly that. ConveyIQ sits as an orchestration layer above your CIS, billing, OMS, CRM, any of your data systems. These systems continue operating exactly as they do today. Nothing gets replaced, nothing gets migrated.
Three things worth highlighting. First, additive, not disruptive. We connect to your existing infrastructure. ConveyIQ has over 100 built-in connectors to every system or data source you can imagine. So there's no core system risk. Even if we cannot access a core system, a report that you may be able to extract out of that core system is sufficient for ConveyIQ to have the data. Second, phase deployment. This system is built to be able to start with just one journey or one specific CX problem we want to solve. First time delinquent early intervention is a common starting point. High volume, well defined, measurable outcomes in a short window. You learn, you tune it, we expand, we change it, we divide it in multiple programs. All that is possible now.
And you'll also see it has an audit layer built in by default. Every action, every suppression, every compliance check is logged centrally, regardless of which source system triggered it. That audit trail exists from day one, not as a separate implementation project afterthought. There's a window that most utilities are losing without realizing it, and it happens before formal collections even begins. We call this part of the dunning process the pre-collections window, and this slide shows exactly where it lives.
I mean, look at the timeline. Bill is issued, it goes unpaid. Under traditional models, the next meaningful contact is a mailed reminder, which may not arrive until 15 days later. And then a final termination notice at day 43, field disconnect at day 60. It's a 28-day silence between when the bill went unpaid and the first contact that actually landed with the customer.
So in that 28-day window, the balance is growing, unchecked. The customer hasn't received anything actionable, and the utility has no signal on whether this is the first time miss, a customer in genuine hardship, or someone who simply forgot to update their payment method. All three get treated identically.
And although the utility as a whole might know this, the engagement system currently being used might not.
Correct.
The data on digital engagement in this window is clear. So you get 20 to 35% higher resolution rates when you engage digitally inside that window rather than waiting for the mandatory mail cycle. The customers who can self-resolve, and many of them can, will do so if you give them the right path at the right moment on the right channel, if you reach them.
The average overdue balance that we're seeing in this type of environment is $789, but that's just average. There's a lot that are quite a bit higher, up to 97% since 2019. So it's increased drastically. Every day that window sits silent is a day that balance grows. Orchestrated digital engagement in the pre-collections window is one of the highest ROI interventions that we're seeing.
All right, so let's make this concrete. Susan, you want to set up this customer profile?
Yeah. So, residential account, first missed payment after 18 months of on-time payment history. There's a balance of $340. There's no prior collections history, no current program enrollment. They have a consent on file for SMS and email. There's no active compliance holds. This is a real profile type. It's a first-time delinquent who has been a reliable customer.
And we take you through the profile. It matters because the first thing ConveyIQ does before taking any action is read it. Not a one size fits all trigger. The system needs to understand who it's dealing with before it decides what to do.
So on day one, the billing event fires. The balance is past due. Before anything happens, the compliance layer evaluates. Whether moratorium active? No. Medical or income protection flag? No. Active journey already running? No. All clear. The journey begins. The segmentation logic can run. It's a first-time delinquent with a strong prior record. This customer is routed to a low friction, high empathy, early intervention journey, not the standard collection sequence.
So that routing decision is doing a lot of work that the customer never sees, but it means that the first message that they receive is calibrated to their situation, not just to the average delinquent account.
That first touch is SMS. It acknowledges the balance, offers a direct link to pay or to explore payment plans. It has an informal tone. It has no shut-off language. This customer doesn't need a threat. They need a path.
So day three, we get no response. No link click, no payment, no inbound contact, journey state advances. Second touch point, email. More detail on payment plan options, available assistance programs, a self-service enrollment link. The contact center is still not involved. The customer has everything they need to self-resolve.
So fast forward to day 7. The customer clicks the payment plan link but doesn't complete enrollment. ConveyIQ registers that a specific behavioral signal, interest without conversion, that is a distinct journey state, and the system responds to it specifically. Third touch is SMS, a direct, reduced friction link back to the incomplete enrollment. One step, not 5.
And that behavioral signal state is one that most systems either miss or flatten. Treating click but didn't convert the same as no response is a meaningful error. These customers are reachable. They just need a lower friction path back.
So on day 8, the customer enrolls. The journey state can update immediately. All pending collection communications are suppressed. The customer moves to a payment arrangement monitoring journey. Confirmation goes out. Next contact is a plan reminder, not a collections notice.
And that suppression is instantaneous, not the next batch cycle, not the next morning. The moment enrollment is confirmed, the machine knows the collections journey is done, and that precision matters at scale.
So let's take a look at the alternate path. If this customer hadn't engaged by day 10, ConveyIQ evaluates for assistant program eligibility before escalating. If eligible, the journey can route to a program referral sequence. If they're not an escalated collection sequence. If not eligible and still unresponsive, the journey escalates with appropriate regulatory notice language and a full audit trail of every prior touch point.
I hope you can see how every decision is data driven. Every action is checked for compliance. Every escalation, a last resort, not a default. It's the difference between a linear shutoff sequence and an orchestrated recovery journey.
So let's spend a few minutes on consent specifically. Because for utilities running digital collections across multiple channels, this is not a small detail. Consent is a continuous account level state that governs what's permitted at every point in the journey.
And this is where I've seen a lot of well-intentioned systems fail. They treat consent as a setup config, something you define at implementation and then forget. It's just not how consent works anymore in a live operational environment. Customers opt out, rules change, channels expand. The consent state is dynamic.
There's four main elements. There's the consent controls, which is channel eligibility is governed by recorded consent state. A customer who has consented to SMS but not voice will never receive a voice contact through the ConveyIQ, regardless of what the journey template says. The consent record governs, not the template. Executives in the room can read that as your TCPA exposure is structurally controlled.
A good one. Automated consent revocation. When a customer opts out through a channel, that revocation is processed immediately, logged, and enforced before the next action is queued. No lag, no manual update required, no risk that someone forgot to place the hold. The architecture just enforces it.
There's also regulatory calendar enforcement. Weather moratoriums, state commission quiet periods, shut-off restriction windows are embedded in the compliance layer as structural precautions. When a moratorium is active, ConveyIQ evaluates it before any collection action triggers, not a manual hold, a precondition built into the system.
And like what we've been saying, a full audit trail. Every action taken, every action suppressed, every compliance rule evaluated is logged by default. If a regulator asks you why a notice was or was not sent on a specific date to a specific account, the answer is in the system without a manual search. This is the kind of defensibility that matters when commissions come asking, and this is the kind of defensibility we want to give our utility partners.
Yeah, this is compliance by design. It is not a feature you configure, it is the architecture. And in a regulatory environment that is actively tightening, that distinction is not academic, it's operational.
All right. Well, thanks for hanging on. Let's talk a little bit about what this produces in practice in terms of benefits.
There's cost reduction, eliminating duplicate and uncoordinated notices such as print, postage, manual processing. This produces direct savings before you even measure payment outcome improvements. Utilities implementing coordinated journey orchestration have identified six-figure annual savings in communication costs alone. That is money on the table today.
And of course, compliance protection, automated regulatory enforcement eliminates the manual hold and override processes that create your audit risk. Every action is logged, every suppression is documented. The audit trail exists by default, not by request. For a utility facing commission scrutiny, which I think is all of them, that is not a compliance feature. It's a risk management capability.
Then there's payment outcomes. Utilities implementing predictive segmentation and tailored journey orchestration saw a 30% increase in debt recovery and a 79% reduction in accounts referred to external agencies. The DC AMP program demonstrated a 16% increase in payment coverage, with collection actions dropping from approximately 37 per customer to 1.8 per customer.
Yeah, that last number is the one that tends to land hardest with operators. 37 actions per customer down to 1.8. It's not a marginal improvement. It's fundamentally different customer operating model. In New York's energy affordability program, the difference between enrolled and non-enrolled customers prevented approximately 89 million in additional debt. So orchestration that routes eligible customers to assistance earlier compounds that effect across the entire portfolio.
Next slide.
So now I'd like to shift the conversation to talk about partnership, because everything we've shown you here today isn't just a product pitch, it's an invitation. The design partner program we're building is specifically for utilities that want to be at the front of this, not responding to it after others have set the standard.
We're not, you're not being sold to. You are being invited in. And the structure of the engagement reflects that. We've set up three phases.
So we co-design, for 30 days. We define the collections journey architecture together, your collections journey architecture together. We map your regulatory environment, compliance requirements. We identify the highest value scenarios to pilot first, which is almost always the first time delinquent early intervention type journey, but it could be something else. And we establish outcome metrics before anything's deployed. You know what success looks like before deployment begins, or what it should look like before deployment begins.
Then there's a pilot deployment. This can be as short as 90 days or as long as 180 days. Single journey, minimal implementation risk. ConveyIQ connects to your existing CIS and billing systems. It can be live in weeks, not quarters. Full compliance controls active from day one. This is not a long procurement and implementation cycle. It's a focused, defined engagement with a measurable endpoint.
And speaking of measurable endpoints, we measure outcomes on an ongoing basis. We track cost reduction, payment recovery, compliance metrics together. You share outcome data that shapes our product roadmap. You might expand to additional journeys based on the results you've actually measured. And as a design partner, your voice is in the room when we're making product decisions, which I think is really important for this market.
This will be a real partnership, a real sense of the word. We're building something together, not delivering something to you. So let's talk about timing because it matters.
So we talked about this 4 million plus households face disconnection in 2026. State moratoriums lift this spring. Millions of households carrying unpaid balances from 2025 face immediate risk. No federal relief backstop in place. It's not a projection. It's the current trajectory that we're on based on the NEADA's preliminary Feb 2026 data.
And the regulatory pressure is not relaxing. State commissions are expanding shutoff restrictions, notice mandates, and contact rules across every major market. The utilities that are not ready for that scrutiny are accumulating exposure right now.
And the tools exist today. ConveyIQ does not require CIS replacement or multi-year implementation project. It doesn't require any of that. It connects you to what you already have and produces outcomes you can measure in the first pilot. It allows you to adjust the logic as you need to. Frankly, the timing argument for waiting is not that strong. The timing argument for moving forward is.
It's the utilities that move now. They will set the standard, others will follow. This is what happens in every technology adoption cycle in regulated industries. The early movers define the benchmark. Everyone else has to respond to it.
So I hope you can see together we have a chance to design something really great, something your
Next
organization will
slide.
point to and be proud of for years. We haven't offered programs like that before, but this is who we are now, and this is what we do and what we care about. We want to help you solve your own problems, your bespoke problems, instead of giving you a generic platform where we decide on a solution for a problem and then hope it holds for years. We can design something together that you can point to as something that really helped with what you struggle with. So let's discuss the fit a little bit.
Yeah, we have three basic criteria that we're kind of looking for. Active arrears challenges. So if you're managing meaningful arrears growth, it doesn't seem like a routine seasonal cycle. This problem is real, and if it's visible to leadership and it's a priority for this fiscal year. Another one is the leadership engagement. We're looking for a senior sponsorship, possibly a VP level or above, that is prepared to be involved. This is not a procurement exercise. It is a co-design engagement. And then also outcome data sharing. You're willing to share payment recovery, cost reduction, and compliance metrics to inform product development. This attribution is always preserved.
So if you're on this webinar today and you're nodding at some of these criteria or most of them, the next step is straightforward. Let's have a conversation.
One next step, that's it.
So we'd like to select 3 to 5 design partners this quarter. If your organization fits what we described on the last slide, if this call is where it starts. It's a 30-minute conversation. There's no procurement process, no commitment, just a direct conversation about whether this is the right fit at the right moment.
The QR code on the right does go directly to a call with us. You can also reach out to us at goconvey.com. And for those who knew us as Message Broadcast, this is the same team, the same relationships, the same commitment to utility outcomes. We just built a significantly more powerful system to deliver on that commitment.
So please scan the code, sample our enterprise scheduling system, which is what we're using and what we also have some of our utility partners using to schedule appointments. It books a call directly with me. Susan will be there, and we'll take it from there. And we'd love to be able to talk about this further with you. Give folks a couple seconds with the QR code.
Yeah, if anyone wants to rescan it, I'll go back. Oh, what just happened?
Don't go back,
I'm,
don't go
I'm
forward.
so sorry. Of course, this just breaks. Ugh. Sorry,
It's all
everyone.
good, we see it.
Technical difficulties.
That's all right. I think she can put that up while we go ahead and
Yeah.
kind of
Okay.
talk a little bit.
All right. Can everyone see this now? Everyone good? It looks good?
Yeah, it's up. Yep.
Okay, my apologies.
All good, Kaylee.
Okay, so now it's time to get into the Q&A section of this webinar. We had some really great questions come through live, so I'm excited to have Riot and Susan answer those for us. So I'm going to start with the first one we got. We already have a collection system. How is this different?
All right, I'll start with that. Your collection system executes actions. ConveyIQ determines what actions are permitted and appropriate before they execute. Those are complementary functions, not competing ones.
Yeah, orchestration. I mean, it's time to put the megaphone down and talk to each one of your customers as if you knew them, and that yields much better results.
Great, thank you so much. All right, another question that we got. Can this platform work with an antiquated CIS system? We still use Banner.
Yes, yes, it can. If you, I know, like, I'm a veteran of these implementations, and I know how hard it is to get systems to talk to each other, but the fundamental building blocks of that have changed. Uh, if you can see data in a system and you'd like us to see it, then we can. In any format, at any cadence. These are not rigid integrations, so we can interact with any system you have that puts data out in any format.
Mhm.
Great, thank you. All right, another question I'm seeing. How does consent management work across channels?
You want to get that, Susan?
Sure. So from a TCPA standpoint, when you're doing business with someone, you have kind of what we call kind of a base consent. They've given you a phone number or an email address as part of their account sign up. So you have an initial consent. However, they then have the opportunity to deny consent as they go along. So they can stop an SMS, for example. So the way that's managed can actually be on a preference basis. It's based on the consent date and the denial date. And if you can get new consent, we can go ahead and send it. Consent is typically tracked today per channel, SMS versus voice, but there are additional regulatory restrictions that are coming in the next couple years that may join that together. So the more channels that we can get access to, the better ability we have to contact the individuals. Not sure I hit everything they wanted on that one, but feel free to ask further.
Okay, thank you. So I know we've touched on this a little bit, but how does this require replacing our CIS or billing platform? Sorry, does this require replacing our CIS or billing platform?
No, I'll answer that question. I'm happy to answer as often as they get asked. No, it does not require that. It does not require that you change whatever you've built. This is the intelligence layer between you and your customer. This is not the operations on the back end. So if you've got a well-built start-stop process in SAP or in some other system or whatever you have. This is not what we do. What we want to be is your most effective way of communicating and nudging your customers' behavior based on those events. So we sit downstream from those systems and we help you design workflows to communicate with your customers
Mm.
in that spot.
Great. We have just a couple more questions I'm seeing. So, how long does implementation take?
Um, I mean, the pilot implementation we talked about, you kind of saw some timelines there. Our whole process here is just designed to compress that timeline significantly, unlike whatever you may have seen before. Not This is not traditional project procurement. This is more of a design consultation, and then custom workflows get created, and we can just start experimenting as soon as possible. These types of implementations give you the same level of flexibility to experiment and see what works and what doesn't that Silicon Valley's had for years. If I tell people if Silicon Valley didn't have that, then Gmail would cost $50 a month. And so the way to reduce costs is to be able to experiment in a way that's compliant and develop something and roll it out to a segment of the population and measure results and do something else like that. So the implementation might be an ongoing thing, but in terms of getting going, we can get going in weeks.
Mm.
Great. All right, one more question and we'll wrap things up. Can we start with one journey and expand?
I can take that. Yes. That's actually what we're recommending. So we're recommending that we kind of pick a specific target journey and we get that going. So that relates kind of to how Rayed answered the previous question. You want to start with a phased deployment. You want to start by testing individual journeys with different segmented elements of the user base. And that will give you the best start. So yes, I think we start with one and expand.
Yeah, build confidence in one journey and learn, tune, scale, and evolve.
Great. Well, it looks like we've answered all the questions that came in live today. Thank you to everyone that submitted a question. So to wrap up, we will be in touch with everyone who scanned the partner discovery call code. And we thank you for taking the time today to join us for a really great discussion. And thank you, Riot and Susan, for a great job.
Thank you,
You bet.
everybody. Looking forward
Very
to the
happy to be
conversations.
here. Take
Thank
care,
you.
everybody.
Bye bye.